Okay, so let's do the last few questions I have for right now. First one. Hey, the other day I remembered this promo for season 5B, and I kept thinking about it. Is there other promos like this one for other seasons? Because it looks more like a scene from an episode than an actual promo. It seems like they're looking for something. Do you think it has something to do with the missing 17 days? I don't think there are any promos exactly like this one. So if anyone doesn't remember this, this is just one shot. But in order to promote season 5, they just showed this scene over and over again with all of them. Like, it would show their individual faces and them moving around. I think they had some voiceovers, which were just lines from the previous part of the season. But I remember that they would do these kinds of promos for the different seasons, and none of them were exactly the same. So there isn't another one exactly like this, but they might have done unique promos for other seasons. It's actually really interesting, the question you ask, if it has something to do with the missing 17 days. I think it would be more symbolic than literal. Like, I don't think we're going to see this exact scene in the missing 17 days. I mean, I could be wrong. That's just my guess. But I do think that maybe they're using this as a symbol for what's going on with the characters. So in that sense, if they're looking for something, it could represent the fact that they lost Beth and looked for her and never found her. I think what they were kind of going for, that most of the fandom would understand, would be that they're looking for a new home, a new place to go. And that's going to be Alexandria because, obviously in 510 is where Aaron showed up to bring them to Alexandria. But that doesn't mean that they weren't, doing double duty here and hinting about things that went down during the missing 17 days that we never saw. Because heaven knows they did that in episode 509 and 510 and moving forward. So, yeah, that's super interesting. I'd kind of forgotten about this promo, but yeah, very well could be. I think you could be right, but, we're not going to know for sure until they tell us or until we get those missing 17 days. But thanks for the question. That's really interesting. I am confused. I saw they are having a premiere for Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, in the beginning of June in New York, but they have not announced the official date when the season is going to start on AMC. Is this normal? I've never heard of this before. It seems strange. Yeah, we're trying to figure this out too. So originally, beginning of the year, they told us it wasn't going to be till the end of the year, and I was bummed. I was like, really? It's going to be 10 months before we get any more Daryl Dixon? I was not happy about that. And then they came out and said it was going to be in June at Tribeca. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, that's better. That's pretty soon. And so I just assumed that when it premieres at Tribeca, because they're going to show the first episode of season 2 at the Tribeca Film Festival, that is just when the series will be airing. But as you've said, we've noticed this too, that they haven't actually said that it's going to be on AMC then. So is it just going to be the first episode as a way to promote the season, and then the season won't actually start until later? We don't know, because they haven't said. We do have Comic-Con coming up at the end of July, and what I was hoping was that we would see season 2 in June, and if it's only 8 episodes, by the time Comic-Con came around, it would have already aired. And, me and Galadriel Jones were talking about how we really do think that either we'll see Beth in season 2, or at least he'll realize she's alive. And so if that were the case, then if it ended right before Comic-Con, then Emily could be at Comic-Con and do a big promo for the fact that, Beth is now understood to be alive. That's kind of what we were thinking. But you're right that we still don't know exactly when it's going to air in terms of being on AMC and AMC Plus. So maybe they really are waiting until after Comic-Con to air it so that they can promote season 2 at Comic-Con. And yeah, that kind of sucks. I don't want to wait that long. But I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question. It is kind of strange that they haven't come out with an actual date. So we know episode 1 will be seen at Tribeca, and there will probably be ways for us to watch that, but the rest of the season might not come until later. We're just waiting for AMC to announce it and let us know, because we honestly just don't know right now. So I wish I had a better answer, but we're on the watch for it. And anyway. So there's that. Update on the Caroler drama. Okay, sure. We not so much me, but some of my fellow theorists follow it more than I do. I I mean, there's not a whole lot that's gone on other than there was some drama about a particular caroler who was causing drama in the Carol fandom, and then they basically started blaming Bethylers. I don't even remember exactly what it was. Okay, I stopped recording for a minute and went back to my messages so I can just kind of read you what's going on because I couldn't remember word for word. But Gladriel Jones was going into the Carol tags, and this is what she sent to me, to our group. Okay, guys, I have a little Fandom wink update for your Wednesday night enjoyment. She was poking fun at other ships. She says she got an anon message tonight from another TDer letting her know that some caroler got a hold of her post and had been circulating it around the dark ship. Gladriel Jones is also Gala Art. She does her art under that name. And so she's saying that she did an art, created a picture, and some caroler got a hold of it and was circulating it around the Carol fandom and being kind of nasty about it, okay? So she says, let me start from the beginning. This is a very fun look into the caroler psychology. So apparently there's some wild anon, and they actually call her that, quote unquote, wild anon, messaging Carol shippers right now, claiming that she knows Norman, that she has offered herself to him sexually. Honestly, I don't know. She sounds a little unwell, but her asks are very aggressive. It's like harassment. Anyway, people are trying to figure out what this person is up to because apparently they've been harassing a lot of Carol shippers and writers, and there's a lot of paranoia in the Carol ship. Anyway, someone is claiming that her post is proof of this person, whoever they are, is actually just a Bethyler trying to start a ship war. So they're just sending random harassing anons to carolers, even though Gala's post has nothing to do with anything the unwell anon is saying, and it's just poking fun at shipping dynamics, something too mature for some fans to appreciate, of course, yeah. Or the wild anon isn't talking about Beth at all, or even any other ship for that matter. They're just saying weird stuff that sounds oddly personal, but they still think that it's us. The carolers think that it's Bethyl shippers that are doing this. Anyway, she says, I don't care about any of this. If I start getting mean anons, it won't be the first time. I've been on the site for 8 years, and this is like my 5th fandom. There's one thing I wanted to share with you guys, though, because it made me smile. According to this anon, who is trying to use my totally benign post in their very bad investigation into who is harassing carolers and pretending to be involved with Norman, Bethyl is going to try and start a war soon because we feel like we have the upper hand. And then she says, LOL, first of all, I couldn't start a war if I tried because I wouldn't even know how. But I'm wondering if perhaps we're not alone and thinking Beth may be coming back. Only for some people, that's not so fun. Anyway, I stand by my humorous post, but what I've learned is that the carolers take themselves super seriously. And also one more thing, not to be too nitpicky, but why would anyone with the upper hand start a war? That's like the opposite of what you do. If you have the upper hand, you just sit and watch the other factions fight it out in the hinterlands. You don't interject yourself unless you absolutely have to. That might be a little too complex for these carolers. So then she sent a link to the Ask In question, so I can link that in the show notes. But anyway, so it's just a drama that, I didn't even know about. I don't think most Bethelers know about. This is just a drama happening within the Carol fandom, and they think that we are trying to start a war with them, apparently. And so what I replied is that this doesn't really surprise me that something like this would happen. With season 2 of Daryl Dixon coming at us, people are starting to get insecure and do ridiculous things. Because you can talk a big game when it's still months away, but when the show's going to be on and for 10 years in the flagship show, your ship did not go canon, I can see why you would be a little bit nervous and a little bit worried and start to freak out a little bit, So I just wrote, for the record, I totally think the logistics and psychology of war are way over the carolers' heads and plenty of other people on social media as well. It does sound like that Wild Anon is unbalanced. Much like what you said about war, why would a Bethyler pretend to be involved with Norman? That doesn't even make sense. Our strategy would be to push Beth and Daryl and Beth's return, not us and Norman. It's just kind of bizarre. But it's very interesting, and I just said I'm sure that we'll get other craziness as it gets closer. W.D. Way says, I agree. This comes off as the carolers being a little bit nervous about what might be happening in season 2. And I think it's funny that they're side-eyeing Bethelers now because, their point is, why us? Why? I mean, yeah, our ships have always kind of gone head to head, but if they're so sure that we're crazy and Beth isn't coming back, and they're so sure that Daryl and Carol are going to be canon, why would they suddenly start honing in on us? Why not blame Darzita shippers or any other shipping fandom? You know, there's got to be a reason that they're zeroing in on us. And anyway, Gladriel Jones says it's just paranoia and them looking for pots to stir, also maybe projection. Like they do this kind of thing, so they project it onto us. And that's true. More than any other part of the fandom, this ship is full of trolls. And I always say this, there are actually some really decent, kind, normal people who ship Carol, so that is not a statement of Carol shippers across the board, but specifically the ones in the online fandom who are really loud and really bullying and rail against people, and they do stuff like this. They're very trolly. And so it makes sense that they would project that onto us because they do it to other people. They assume other people will do it to them. So then Gladriel Jones was kind of monitoring it, and she said people are still sending asks to the person blaming us for some sort of drama going on. I think it might be, or I think I might even be misunderstanding it now. Apparently they posted something without too much thought as to how it might communicate to their audience involving Daryl and domestic violence. People were harassing them about it, and now they're blaming all of that on Bethyl. In reality, it's probably 4 whole people that are doing this. Yeah, that's definitely true. So it gets really strange, and we're not entirely sure what's going on. It's just drama in their fandom. And then I said, you know, the interesting part to me is that none of them are ever going to admit this. So we were just talking about how, let's see, let me backtrack a little bit. Gladriel says they're looking for people to blame for the fact that they're not going to get their way. And yeah, it just shows that they're insecure about, they probably on some level know better, and that Carol is not going to go canon. And so they're like already blaming people and being angry about it. And then W.D. Way says the possibility of a reunion between alive Beth and Daryl tells us that we're not the only fandom that sees possibilities through the hints and clues. I'm not worried about a real romance between Daryl and Leah. She's dead, truly dead, but why would you worry about Beth if there wasn't any part of you that believes she could be alive? And Gladriel said, yeah, that was a really enlightening aspect for me as well. And then I answered and I said, yeah, the interesting part is that they would never admit that. Like, they're never going to tell us that they don't think Daryl and Carol will go canon. They'd never tell us that they think there's a possibility Beth could be alive. Honestly, I think most of them aren't consciously aware that they are threatened by Beth or the possibility of her. It's more of a vibe they're picking up. So they start blaming our fandom for things, which is illogical, but it's just something that they're feeling. You know what I mean? So most of them are going to be truly inexplicably shocked when she shows up. Anyway, so I won't go into too much of it. We just kind of talked about it back and forth. And anyway, so that's kind of the update on the Carol drama. And again, we're not even sure we're completely understanding it because we're just getting bits and pieces of it. But as always, there tends to be a lot of drama over there, and it will probably get worse as we get closer to season 2 coming out. So I would say just steer clear, try not to engage too much, and just know that especially when and if she shows up this season, they're going to have a complete meltdown. So we're going to want to be distancing ourselves from that. But overall, like I said, I don't jump into the tags too often. It's just what other people tell me. And it is interesting. The psychology of any fandom I actually think is really fascinating, but sometimes some fandoms are more toxic than others. So just be careful of that. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. And that was actually a couple of weeks ago. A little over a week ago that we were talking about that. So I don't know if it's gotten worse or calmed down. I mean, I haven't been following it. So anyway, all right, I'm going to stop there for now. Everybody have a wonderful day, and I will be back soon.